You have all heard of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, I'm sure most people. Swami Vivekananda, everybody has heard. That you should know that Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was his teacher, was his guru. While Swamiji was highly educated and so on and so forth, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa could barely sign his name. He was a priest in a village temple of Kali. This is how he started his life in the spiritual field. So, once in England, somebody asked Swami Vivekananda, "Can you describe your master to us?" Ramakrishna. He went silent for some time because he was wondering how to describe this to this crowd which has no idea what. So finally he said, "A speck of dust from those blessed feet could have created 1,000 Vivekanandas." This is how he described. Now, so Sri Ramakrishna worshipped the mother goddess Kali. And he was so absorbed in the worship that he used to totally forget himself. It took him a while to start worshipping the mother Kali because he came from a very orthodox background. He did not want to worship a deity which is put up by Rani Rasmani, who was the chief of the fisher community in Calcutta, fisher community. But finally he fell in love with the mother goddess, and so he broke all the rules and decided to do it. So when he had that experience of the mother, the very interesting thing to note, the first samadhi, if you want to call it, a trance state of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he did not see the mother's form. He describes it once, in many places he described it. The thing with him was he was such a sensitive body and mind that halfway through the discussion he would go into samadhi. And then after a long time he'll have to start again. So he said once he decided that if I don't have this vision, life is not worth living. Don't imitate, please. So he was about to kill himself when suddenly everything vanished and he only saw a white silver light coming from inside and outside, and there was nothing else seen there, and it was blissful. He fell down in that bliss. People say unconscious, but I think it's not unconscious, but inner conscious and not conscious of the outer world. Much later he started seeing the mother's form. Then the form appeared and said, "Stay in Bhavamukha, stay in normal because you have work to do." It was gone. Then I'm talking about Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and it's not a joke. It's not something that easily, unless there is a born yogi among you, we cannot make out. It's quite possible. I don't rule out anything. And then one day, in the last part of his sadhana, he went through many teachings, many sadhanas after this. Most people have one sadhana and they're done with it. Here is a man who went through many sadhanas after starting with the worship of the mother until he finally went through the sadhana called Vedantic sadhana. So the interesting part I wanted to tell you that there was a monk by name Totapuri. Puri is one of the Dasanami Sampradaya names attached to the name, the order of Shankara. But he was a Nagavava, so Krishna used to call him Nangta, naked one. So one day he came by boat into Dakshineshwar and he saw this young man who had gone through many other sadhanas. He went to Vaishnava Tantra, Bhairavi Brahmani taught him many things and so on. And a young man with a bright face sitting there, so he park. He was a man who lived only 3 days in one place. I have seen in the early days Babaji, Maheshwarnath Babaji do that. After 3 days he would move away. Many times I said, Babaji, why can't we sit in one place? He said, if you sit too long in one place, your roots will grow and you'll be stuck to the earth. I mean, for him, okay. So, Totapuri came there on the ship and he saw this young man. He came by boat. His face was very bright. Usually he never asked anybody this question. He came up to him and said, do you want to learn Vedantic experience? And Ramakrishna said, I'll have to ask my mother. So he thought his mother must be living with him. So he went away to the temple and came back and said, yes, mother said I can take Vedantic sadhana. So Totapuri, when he understood that this is what happened, he started laughing, because from his point of view, the purely Vedantic point of view, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, there is no such thing. There is only the Supreme Brahman, nothing else exists, including humans, gods, nothing. This is Adi Shankara's teaching. So anyway, he came and then he started instructing him. He said, I don't need to teach you philosophy, but let's go into the practice. So in the Panchavati, he made him sit down and said, take all thoughts away from your mind. Ramakrishna, like a young student, sat before this huge mountain of a man with matted hair and cleared his mind. It took him a few seconds to do that because he was already into all sadhana. But there was one image which he could not take out. Everything vanished, but the mother was there. So he told Nangta, this is difficult for me. He said, use your mind as your sword and cut through. He said, no. He said, yes. Because the mother had given him permission to go, he knew that he must do it. And then he said, Totapuri picked up a piece of glass and pressed it into his. He said, fix your attention there, break everything. So finally everything was broken and he entered into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But Totapuri did not know that he had entered into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which has taken him 40 years of Vedantic practice for himself. He thought, how can somebody enter in half an hour? So he sat waiting, no sign of life. One day passed. Second day, he managed to push a little bit of water into his mouth. Third day, he thought, if I don't wake him out from this, he might drop the body. So, there are techniques like shouting Hari Om into the ears and so on. He did that and he came back. And Totapuri said, what took me 40 years? How did it happen to you in 1 hour? And then this man who never stayed for more than 3 days in a place, stayed there for 1 month. And when he left, he was convinced that what is there is also here. And went his way. I'm just trying to tell you about it. Don't take it lightly. People after 3 days of Kriya, I mean Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I don't need to do any more. No. Why I don't say this is because then everybody says, I don't have to do it.